I've joined the Rawvolution at Naturaw because I know that not all raw food is created equal. I'm passionate about feeding dogs as nature intended. After all, you are what you eat, and so is your dog. At Naturaw, there are no compromises, no confusion, just real raw food made with integrity and a conscience, offering 100% transparency, supporting British farmers, and only using the highest welfare assured ingredients is so important. They're a certified B Corp and reduce their carbon footprint by utilizing solar power and planting trees. They only use completely plastic-free packaging that's home compostable. Prudence and Mr. Binks are simply loving their nutrient-dense and balanced recipes. So try Naturaw today. Just go to naturaw.co.uk and grab 20% off your first purchase with my code AnnaWeb20. Join the Rawvolution and feed exceptional raw food. Hello, I'm Anna Webb. Welcome to this episode of A Dog's Life. With the World Cup having just kicked off, we're looking forwards to 2030 when the World Cup goes to Morocco and where currently dogs are being slaughtered in the name of football. And as ever, this episode is powered by Antonol. Debbie Wilson from the International Animal Coalition and Peter Egan, animal welfare campaigner, activist, advocate, amazing actor. Welcome back to A Dog's Life.
Thanks very much, Anna. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, well, it's a timely moment to bring you together to talk about football, really, as the small match called the World Cup has just kicked off for 2026.
Indeed, absolutely. Yeah. Is it Mexico, isn't it? Yeah.
I think so, yes. Apparently it's the biggest one ever or something. And from what I've heard on the radio the last couple of days, it's not without a bit of controversy already. And
Well, indeed, absolutely. Well, Donald Trump says it's the biggest one ever, so that's going to be questionable anyway, from my point of view. But I mean, I like football, and I like the World Cup, and I like highly charged matches, which they always are. There's so much at stake in the World Cup, and it is so amazing for the countries in which the challenges take place. So it brings a huge amount of focus and publicity to America and Mexico and Canada. I think is where the third place is. It's taking place. So it's an enormous international event.
Absolutely. And I agree. Even I will watch with some of those big games because, you feel the silence outside, and everyone is indoors glued to their TVs. And it is a bringing together. So, Debbie, I mean, it's a shame, isn't it, that the 2030 games, I think, that are due to be staged in Morocco and Spain and Portugal as well, but focusing on Morocco particularly, what has caused you great pain in the last couple of years?
Hi there, and it's a great question, and when we spoke before, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, Anna, time seems to kind of go really quickly. When we talked about the connection between the FIFA 2030 Football World Cup in Morocco, Spain, and Portugal, and the mass killing of the free roaming dogs in Morocco, which first became apparent in January 2023, when a FIFA delegation were visiting a city in northern Morocco called Tangier to discuss the possibility of Morocco putting their hat in the ring, along with Spain and Portugal, to co-host the 2030 Football World Cup. And the authorities in that region, Tangier, took to the streets and literally executed 300 of the free roaming dogs, some of
Sure.
whom had already been vaccinated against rabies, sterilised against reproducing, and had tags in their ears, which are a universal symbol of a tagged and neutered dog. And they executed them either via poisoning, strychnine, that's directly injecting strychnine into the body of the dog, which is a horrific death, and or shooting them.
Debbie, can I ask a question, Debbie?
Of course.
Who initiated, who demanded that this tidy up, as they call it, who demanded that it should happen?
So that's a really good question, Peter. And we've spoken with FIFA about this. FIFA are aware of it and deny any connection, as in that they didn't give the killing orders. So all we're left with then is that it was the authorities. Now, was it the authorities at a central level, as in central government? Don't know. Was it at a municipality level? But these were employees of the authorities in Tangier and the police.
Shocking, absolutely shocking. Also, Tangier is often held up as being a very dog-friendly region in Morocco, in my experience anyway. Anna, sorry for interrupting this conversation you had started, because I'm really fascinated by what's happening in Morocco at the moment, and I'm absolutely devastated, as indeed you are, Debbie, and anyone else who knows what is happening, because having started with 300 dogs 2 years ago, how many hundreds of thousands have been killed in the most appalling manner to date, Debbie?
Well, that's a really good question. And, we're talking about a country, Peter, that not only do they not keep any official figures on this, but they continue to even deny that it's happening. So you have this kind of outrageous gaslighting that comes from the Moroccan authorities, even in the face of irrefutable evidence. They say that they're not doing it. I'm just going to circle back, and then I'm going to come forward to the question, Peter, about the numbers. So prior to this happening in Tangier in January 2023, if we go back as far as 2018. So the significance of 2018 is Morocco wanted to host the 2026, the one that's taking place now.
Yeah.
And similarly, a delegation visited Morocco, and this time they went to Agadir, which is a tourist coastal region in Morocco. And exactly the same thing happened. This mass execution of dogs in 2018 in relation to the 2026 Football World Cup. Now, your question, Peter, in terms of figures, there are no official figures. The figures on the ground, which can only be estimates that come from NGOs who are working to stop this in Morocco, they cite a figure of 500,000 dogs per year.
Wow.
Are currently being executed. Now, Morocco, as a former protectorate of France, which I believe ended in 1956, that there's a history now of 7 decades of killing the free roaming dogs. However, there is an irrefutable pattern of how this exacerbates, how it is exacerbated around national and international events. Now, the pattern in relation to FIFA related events or the Confederation of African Football, which is CAF, who are a member of FIFA, that pattern is absolutely well established. We have sent so many dossiers of information to FIFA on this issue. FIFA do not deny that it's happening. And we have been doing some advocacy work with FIFA, which, fingers crossed now, has led to the Moroccan authorities inviting the IAWPC and FIFA to meet with them in September this year. Now, both Les and I, Les, who is the president and founder of the IAWPC, we wish that meeting could take place tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we've made ourselves available at any time to go at the 11th hour to the capital of Morocco, where the meeting is planned to be to discuss this. However, if it's September, so be it. We will go in September.
Yeah.
Debbie, so what do you hope is going to be negotiated? There's still 4 years between now and 2030. So technically, that could mean a lot of dogs are culled in these terrible conditions.
Well, it's interesting as well, Anna, and just to sort of go back to, the word kind of culling, and I do believe that language is really important. We don't use the word cull, it's killing, execution, massacre of them. I think sometimes culling has that kind of, people think of like, animals that are diseased, and governments make a best interest decision, to cull diseased animals, to kind of,
Or they cull wildlife, like here
yes,
in the UK,
yeah,
they cull deer in
they
Scotland,
do.
It's
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
appalling, absolutely
Yeah.
shocking.
Oh no, I mean it's beyond, it's really beyond thinkable. Not least I'm sure, for the communities out there, for children and tourists. I mean, Morocco, I'd love to go actually. I'd like to go to Casablanca because I love the film, but I've never been, but they rely, I'm sure, a lot on the tourist industry,
Yeah.
and this can't be doing much good for that.
Well, strangely enough, I mean, I'm sure Debbie would know better than I, but tourism hasn't been affected at all by, from what I've read, by this appalling mass killing that's going on. I mean, 500,000 dogs a year. I mean, that's in the next 4 years, that's nearly 4 million dogs. And what shocks me, I'm sorry to just bung this in so quickly, Anna.
No, go for it, Peter, please. I
I
love
mean,
listening to you.
what shocks me is that we in the UK reckon to be an animal-loving country. Almost all footballers that I know have a companion animal. People profess to actually love companion animals throughout the world, and the world isn't protesting about the potential of up to 4 million dogs being brutally slaughtered in a beautiful country like Morocco. And like you, Anna, I mean, I've always wanted to visit Morocco and go to Casablanca and Agadir and Tangier and all those places. I will never, ever set foot in the country while this is happening. I think it is so disgusting. And also, this is always viewed as being an animal problem, and this is a government problem, a local borough problem. It's because people can't be bothered to actually deal with a situation that they are creating. And the one way they can deal with this is by neutering and returning stray dogs to the areas where they live in. But what they do, and I've seen some of the film recently that Debbie has shared with me, I have been totally and utterly devastated by the careless cruelty in which these dogs are dealt with. I've just come back from Ukraine, where people who adore their animals are actually giving their lives to protect their companion animals. And here you have, and also dealing very responsibly up until this terrible invasion with a neutering policy that was actually keeping their stray animals under control. And here you have in Morocco a country that is going to celebrate the biggest piece of advertising in 2030 is just behaving like a third world country, arbitrarily destroying animals in front of children, in front of their owners, in front of adults. It is just absolutely devastating. And I don't understand why the Moroccan government and everyone who sees this doesn't just stand up and say, you can't do this. You can't do this in the 21st century. It's inhumane, it has no empathy, and it has no compassion whatsoever. What kind of country are you? It shocks the life out of me.
Well, I agree with you, Peter. I mean, I don't understand it, and why can't FIFA surely step up to the mark and just stop it, or bring in the agencies who I know are already out there trying to vaccinate, to capture, vaccinate, and return. What's stopping it?
So I just want to go back to some of the things that you raised, Anna, when you were talking about what we would like the outcome of the meeting to be, the one in September. So we have literally just forwarded FIFA our proposed agenda for the meeting, which we were asked to do, to formulate an agenda. And I think one of the things that's important in terms of sitting around the table as such for the first time, that any international organisation will have done with the Moroccan authorities, is to ask them what is their perception of what's going on at the moment. So to understand from their point of view how they see, if you could look at me on video now, I'd be going in inverted commas, the problem. What do they define the problem as? Because I think it's really important to seek to understand if there's a shared view or not of what the problem is. So we would all agree that the problem is the violent massacre of, as you said, Peter, potentially up to 4 million dogs in the next 4 years. Would the Moroccan authorities perceive that in the same way, or do they perceive the problem as the free roaming dogs, as something to be got rid of, to be eliminated? Anna, going back to a kind of a desire to visit Morocco, and as you said, Peter, Morocco is a beautiful country. I have a house there. I've owned a house before I knew the extent of what was going on. I bought my house there, and it's in a beautiful area just outside Marrakesh. Thankfully, not touched by what's happening right now. There's a lot of empathy in that area. There's like an indigenous population of who would have been formerly Amazigh people who live there. But at the moment, 7.3% of the Morocco's GDP comes from tourism. So that's huge. That's a huge amount of money. And we're also not talking about a country that's poor, okay? Because quite often, people in Morocco or people of Moroccan descent who live outside Morocco, sometimes non-Moroccan people will say, oh, it costs so much, you can't expect this poor country, to invest in neutering and vaccinating the dogs. The monarch of Morocco is the 4th wealthiest monarch in the world. In the world. They have the largest supply, natural supply of phosphates in the world. So this is a country, there's a lot of money, but as like other countries, it's not fairly distributed. But in terms of, if we look at the research around the world and TNVR or CNVR programs, catch, neuter, vaccinate and return programs around the world, they work much better for the animals and the citizens if the government takes some ownership of it. So for example,
absolutely, it must
if we look, they do. I mean, so I mean, we were talking, somebody mentioned Tangier and being like this kind of model, of animals and humans coexisting. So it is quite advanced as a city in relation to the rest of Morocco. However, and as you mentioned, Peter, I send you some of the horrendous footage, and thank you so much for bearing witness to it. And there is a power in bearing witness. One, we honour the animals who've been brutalised. We see them. And that, I think that has a tremendous power. And we also see the devastation that these people can bear down on these animals. And then we see them. We see these people as well. I think there's a power in doing that. However, coming back to Tangier, without a fit for purpose animal welfare and protection law, and without however the Moroccan government would do it, but a commitment to stop killing the animals, they will just continue to do it, and they do. So these NGOs can spend, however many thousands, millions of pounds on CNVR and the dogs, and they still kill them. If they were investing that money, would they still kill the animals?
Well, but it's a good question, that, Debbie. Sorry for interrupting you, but what is the reaction of the general population in Morocco? I mean, surely they are compassionate and empathetic people, and they're seeing this happening in front of their eyes. And also, the people who are carrying out this brutality do it with nonchalance. They don't care. I've seen them laughing as they torture dogs. I mean, what is why aren't the Moroccan people actually standing up and saying, no, this is our problem. We must take control of it. Why are they just watching and allowing people like you and the IAWPC and other NGOs trying to take responsibility for a problem that is of their own making?
So that's
These situations only exist throughout the world because the populations of these countries are so careless about their advocacy in terms of animals and in terms of stray dogs. So, I mean, surely the Moroccan population can say to its own government or its own boroughs, we have to do something about this. And if they're not doing it, why aren't they doing it?
Yes, go on. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it must be horrific out there to see dead dogs, on the pavement. Watch some of this. I've seen some of the footage also. I have to say, I found it so dreadful, so dreadful. I can't describe it.
So Peter, in terms of the people of Morocco, the people who live in Morocco, and what they're up against is, and I think it's really, really complicated, is that when people, and they do in Morocco, push back, and it's mainly women, mainly. That doesn't mean that there aren't some men who do it. They do, but it's mainly Moroccan women
Yeah.
who push back against the cruelty. They can be met with the same or similar levels of violence that the animals are. So, we have reports, we've
Do you know
seen
why
them.
that is, Debbie? Why are they met with that violence? Is it because the men in Morocco are so lacking in humanity and compassion, and clearly misogynists as well?
Mm.
Well, let's look at it this way, Peter, and Anna, as you said, you've seen some of the footage. Peter, you've seen a lot of it.
I have.
You've seen the extent, the type, the nature of the violence. The video that I sent you, I think it was on Saturday,
Yeah, it's
of the
horrible.
poisoning of the dogs in Tangier, and at the end they're smiling. These guys are smiling. So
Yeah.
there's either a level of psychopathy that already exists, that these people
But is
are,
that that can't be a national trend,
no,
Debbie?
no, it's not a national trend. But what can happen, and what the evidence points to, Peter, is that, from a very young age, if people, children from a young age are exposed to this type of violence, that the initial response of a child who bears witness to the types of violence that we're talking about, the initial response is of distress.
Yeah.
The child feels distress, and they will reject the violence, and that's through
Yeah.
the child's empathy. However,
Yeah.
if there's repeated exposure plus adults in the child's life who are saying, what's wrong with you, why are you
Mm.
crying, this
Yeah.
is normal, dogs are dangerous, all dogs have rabies, dogs are aggressive, because there's also there's a state narrative there that's constantly
Yes, but
pushed.
again, Debbie, that state narrative is projected. And of course, there is a huge problem of rabies in any society where there are a huge amount of stray dogs. That happens throughout the world, and in various countries have their own way of dealing with it. But what I find very distressing is when I put out information about this in a country like Morocco, instead of getting intelligent reactions to it, most of the time it's a racist one, which is, well, what do you expect from them? They're Muslims. They don't give a shit about,
Mhm.
excuse me swearing. They
It's
don't
okay.
care. They don't care about. They think dogs are dirty. And now I don't believe that. I don't subscribe to that, and I don't support any of that kind of response. But what I can't understand is in a country that is a beautiful country with wonderful people, and any Moroccan person I've met, I've always found to be charming, wonderful, and a great human being. Why, en masse, they can actually tolerate this kind of thing? This is something we wouldn't tolerate in the UK, for instance. And that one can't just put it down to the fact that we are a more developed society here and that we are a first world rather than, I mean, Morocco is, even with its king being one of the fifth richest man in the world, it is a third world country, ostensibly, but is wanting to come in to the first world. And one of the first portals that you have to go through, I think, to enter the first world is to have some kind of commitment and understanding to compassion and empathy.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the question is this, do they exterminate their cats, pet rabbits, maybe? But I mean, what about cats? They often roam the streets, more than dogs.
I think there's something about thinking about, what does it mean to Morocco, if you think about it at an authority level, to have this, what is a large population of free roaming dogs. Now, this is what I think Morocco sees a sign of modernity as a country that doesn't have free roaming dogs. And therefore, there's something to be got rid of. But actually, it's the opposite. A sign of modernity, as you were quite rightly kind of, inferring, there, Peter, is a population of dogs who are cared and looked after.
Exactly.
That's a sign of modernity,
Indeed.
not slaughter and massacre. And you also talk about, a country that has rabies, that's endemic within it. And the main vector for rabies is the dog. But the only way to create herd immunity is through vaccinating the dogs. It's the only way to do it. So why aren't Morocco following the science? That's the science. I always think you don't have to like dogs to, one, not be violent towards them. You don't have to like them to not hit them. You can still not like them, but just leave them alone. Give them a wide berth. You don't even have to like them at an authority level. But if you want to eliminate rabies from the country, the only way you're going to do it is to vaccinate the dogs.
100%.
If you want to see, sorry, Peter, if you want a country that has reduced levels of dogs, the only way to do it is to neuter them, because all the while they're exterminating 500,000 dogs per year. Those dogs are continuing to breed.
Of course they are. Of course they are. And all you have to do, you only have to choose one gender. You don't have to neuter all of the males and the females. Just do the females, or just do the males. I mean,
no, that's a good point, Peter. That could, halve the bill.
Hey, Anna.
Hey, Mike.
So we've just finished Billy's first 60 days of Antinol, and wow, what a difference.
Really? Oh my gosh, what have you noticed?
Well, he's shinier. He's much more energetic. Not that he wasn't beforehand, but you can see the difference. But remember, I told you he used to have that little limp in his back left paw that he'd hurt himself when he was a pup.
Yes,
he doesn't seem to do that much anymore.
What, the hop, skip, and the jump?
Yeah. So it's like his joints are a bit better. And we actually had friends around this weekend who'd noticed that there was something good about Billy. And I was telling them about Antinol, and they said, "Oh, what's in it?" I said, "Well, green lip muscle." And they said, "What's that?" And I go, "Oh, well, I don't know. I'll have to ask Anna," as I always do. So,
well,
for next time, what should I say? What's so great about green lip muscle?
Well, green lip mussel, it comes from New Zealand. It's the only place that green lip mussels live. And what's great about the green lip mussel is that it is what's known as a broad spectrum source of omega-3. And the reason dogs need to take omega-3 is that their bodies don't make it themselves. So unless they're getting it through, their diet, which can be omega-6 heavy. And it's very important to have a balance between omega-6 and omega-3. So it's normally through supplements that omega-3 is given. And green lip mussel is unique in its having everything from EPA, DHA, and ETA. So all the main omega-3s.
And how about Binks and Prudence? They must be much better as well.
Yeah, well, they've been on it for over a year, and they've been on green lip mussel forever since I've had them. So Prue's 10 now. So she's had green lip mussel since the first day I brought her home, to be honest, but not Antinol. And I only wish I'd discovered Antinol earlier. I really honestly mean that, because it's an oil rather than a powder. So its bioavailability, that means, its effectivity to get absorbed quickly and efficiently by the body is greater.
So people listening now, and they want to discover Antinol for themselves, where do they go?
Well, all you have to do is go to Antinol, ANTINOL.co.uk, and then type in Anna Webb and get your special discount. I'm still interested, is it all animals that are being, tortured and exterminated like this? I mean, I'm a great cat lover as well, and I'm sure there's a lot of cats in Morocco. So are they also targeted in this? Because cats spread rabies, Debbie, just as much as dogs do. Even easier, actually, a scratch from a cat, you could get rabies. What is their logic then about dogs? If cats aren't being targeted, why is it dogs?
That's a really good question. Cats are being targeted, but not en masse in the way in which dogs are. Cats are seen as an animal that keeps down rodents, for example. Dogs do as well. But the cat has a particular place in Moroccan society. But we are receiving now an increasing amount of videos of cats being killed, usually through the placing of toxic poisons on the ground.
Don't. I can't bear it. It's a bit of a sore point with me, actually, that which we won't go into now.
It's okay. I understand that. And we're all humans and we've all got our own kind of experiences, haven't we, what we sort of bring to bear in relation to what's happening. But in terms
poisoning
of dogs,
is a terrible death,
it's horrendous.
So I mean, really my last cat was poisoned actually here in London. So, that puts a bit of a global twist on things, actually. Sadly, fox poison. Yeah. So, not good, terrible. I mean, really bad.
Just picking up on that, Anna, if I may.
Yes.
One of the most extraordinary experiences I had when I was in Ukraine recently was one of the soldiers in a trench on the front line. He had a dog. It was a stray dog that he had befriended, like so many soldiers do in these situations, because it normalizes their horrible lives.
Well, yes. I mean, we've got it in history from the First and Second World War and beyond.
Absolutely.
Yes,
100%. And his dog, he saw the dog eat some rat poison. He was so deeply concerned about this, he scooped the dog up and took it to an Al-Zad post, which was 15 kilometers away from the front line, very dangerous area to be. He said, I think my dog has eaten poison and I think it may die. So the team at Al-Zad said, we'll leave the dog with us. And he went back to the front line and they checked the dog out, kept it overnight, and it survived. It obviously hadn't eaten enough. They contacted the soldier, who immediately came back from the front line, picked up the dog and took the dog back with him, and turned to the vets and said to the vets, "You're heroes."
That's great. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, segue, I mean, to Ukraine, I mean, it's something that you don't see in the news, actually, is these amazing organizations, yes, Nowzad being one, but actual locals that get together and they drive to these really remote places where people are just hanging on, living in bombed premises, and they're taking their animals, whether it's goats, sheep, dogs, cats, pigs, and taking them to safety to hopefully be reunited one day, and risking their lives.
Situation. And so many of them are also sadly being left behind, and very brave people staying behind to help them. Sorry, we're going off the point, Debbie.
We are getting off the point. But Debbie, what do you think this meeting, I mean, all being well, you've got this meeting in September. I mean, it's obviously horrific. It's horrific. I mean, what are your hopes that the meeting in September with FIFA is going to help and stop this?
So it's FIFA and the Moroccan authorities.
Great.
So there was a meeting very recently with very kind of high-ranking members of FIFA who met with similarly high-ranking members of Moroccan authorities, and it was at that meeting that the Moroccan authority representative invited the IAWPC and FIFA to meet with them. As far as we're aware, FIFA are, how can I sort of say this, supporting the IAWPC at that meeting in calling for an immediate end to the killing of the dogs. Having said that, we have written and met with FIFA numerous times over the past, it's just over a year now, and asked them to call for an end to the killing of the dogs. That hasn't happened so far. Not that they haven't asked for it, but it hasn't stopped. And to implement a fit for purpose catch, neuter, vaccinate and return program and a humane education program, because there's something about, and I think Peter, you're sort of intimating about it, which is about a recognition of sentience.
Yeah.
So there are two global animal welfare scales. So one is the World Animal Protection, and they rate countries in relation to recognition of sentience and recognition of laws to protect animals. So at the moment, for recognition of sentience and animal protection laws, Morocco sits second to bottom on a global scale, only one above Iran. Iran is the worst in the world. Most people kind of think like China. I mean, China, has some horrific, kind of things that they do to
100%.
animals.
No,
but
really,
Morocco sits only one above Iran.
That's
So
shocking.
it is shocking. So the thing about, the CNVR and humane education, in fact, we've sent FIFA a very, very detailed program to roll out a CNVR and humane education program across the 6 FIFA stadium sites for 2030, and they're looking favorably on that at the moment, but that's yet got to be kind of realized.
Without being overly provocative, and I think that Debbie, you and Les are doing remarkable work with IAWPC as far as this is concerned. I mean, without the work you have been doing, no one in the world would know that this horror is happening. So well done as far as that's concerned. But the element of sentience, awareness of sentience and compassion, I mean, that isn't isolated, even though they are low on the list, because that's a problem that the world suffers from as far as all species are concerned, I think. And an education in terms of children understanding compassion, not selective compassion, which we have certainly throughout the whole of the UK, but dimensioned compassion, which is really understanding that animals have a right to exist in exactly the same way as humans do, is a large step for the world to take. And so thinking about it in terms of Morocco being second from the bottom of the list, it's going to be a huge bridge for them to cross. And I hope they start doing it, and with this kind of conversation that's about to happen. And I'd be very interested to see what happens when you have your meeting. There's another thing. FIFA could stop this now. They could stop it in a moment by saying to Morocco, if you don't stop the killing, you can't have the games.
Well said, Peter. I mean, that sort of seems obvious to me as well. There are other countries.
Yeah.
Well, they won't. And they've actually told us that they won't do that. Now, you raise a really interesting...
So what does it say about FIFA and their concern, Debbie, as far as that's concerned? I mean, I know that one has to be diplomatic and productive as far as these concerns are, and you are doing exactly the right thing. But the question I ask is, why can't FIFA just make that choice? Because I think the world would actually cheer. And I'm sure that all the football players who were going to go there that love their animals would also shake FIFA by the hand and say, you've done the right thing.
Well,
yes, I mean, I would.
I think it's such a complicated and sort of very detailed kind of issue that you've raised, Peter, and you're absolutely...
But I don't see that
right.
that's complicated, Debbie. I mean, listen, I'm not, mad about football.
Yeah,
sure. It's definitely political, but that's the whole point. I mean, FIFA could, as a non-political organization, they represent football, use their power that, Morocco obviously wants, as Peter said, to host these games. It's going to be brilliant for the country and so on. But, there's a disconnect here going on in my brain, massively, a massive disconnect. Football is about happy, about community, about bringing people together, joy and all the rest of it. And then meanwhile, this slaughter going on, that the country is tainted in blood of animals is not indicative of the whole spirit of football, surely.
If we look at so for example, Netflix have done this 4-part series of FIFA Uncovered, which I've watched through twice now. FIFA have a history of awarding tournaments to countries with horrendous human rights records.
Absolutely.
Now, what FIFA say in their defense is that, and it's a flawed defense, what they say is, well, if we award X country, that yes, they do have an appalling human rights record, as a consequence of hosting the tournament, the human rights will improve. Never happened. It's never, ever happened.
Yeah.
Now, here we are in a country, so we're talking about Morocco, that has these gross abuse of animal rights. FIFA knew that this was taking place in Morocco before they awarded Morocco the 2030 co-hosting of the tournament. Now, there's an expression, it's in Yorkshire, which is where I'm from. I don't know if it works anywhere else, but it's called putting the cart before the horse. So they put the cart before the horse. They do it all the time. And we've spoken to them about this. Here you go again. You've awarded a country in full knowledge that this is happening to the animals. Not only that, in the lead up to Morocco formally being given the hosting, which was in late 2024, those people who were in Morocco out defending the animals against this violence were being threatened with rape. We had people who were having fantasies of standing in front of the men who were shooting the dogs. Like, you know, in America, you get this suicide by cop phenomenon. So these were people who were talking about suicide by dog shooter. FIFA knew, they were fully aware of all of this. We had sent them 20 dossiers of information before they awarded Morocco in December. So let's be really clear. FIFA knew about this. They walked into this with their eyes wide open. They also allowed Morocco to submit a lie into the bid evaluation report. So that's a document that FIFA used to assess a country's viability to host such a prestigious tournament. And Morocco forwarded a statement, which was put in the November bid evaluation report, November 2024, that the killing had stopped in August 2024, and now animals had protection. Now, bearing in mind what I just said, between August 2024 and the bid evaluation report in November, we had sent 20 dossiers of information. So FIFA knew when they made a decision to include that statement in the bid evaluation report that that was a lie. And also, according to FIFA's statutes, any country that lies is in breach of contract. So they know also that Morocco in breach of contract. So going back to, you know, Anna, what you were talking about in terms of FIFA taking it off Morocco and give it to another country, they won't. We've asked them. They've made it very clear they will not do that. Why? So, well, what can we imagine? Corruption, money exchanging hands. You know, and as the lovely late Dr. Jane Goodall said, you know, who was a supporter of the IAWPC campaign and wrote to FIFA prior to them being awarded the cup, you know, where she talks about, you know, purpose over profit. You know, you have to have a purpose. You have to have a code by which you live by, and if you're an organization, by which you operate. FIFA have a code. They're supposed to be guided by the United Nations guiding principles on business and human rights. Well, clearly they're not. So what they say and what they do are not the same thing.
Absolutely.
So there's huge disparity there.
It's shocking.
In terms of your analogy, the cart before the horse, they'll always put the money before the horse, won't they?
Yes, well said, Peter. I mean, this is obviously lurking in the background here. I mean, I just can't believe it. You know, it just makes me, my faith in the human condition through this conversation has dwindled even more. So I just, people just need to, you know, wake up, smell the coffee and do the right thing. And just disappoints me when people don't do that.
Yes, it's horrible. And also, to quote the great Jane Goodall, who I'm proud to say was a friend of mine. I'm an ambassador for her institute, and she always said, we must always live with hope. We must
Yes.
never, ever, and whatever our feelings are in terms of how negative the world is becoming or has become, and all of this horror that's happening, we have to live with hope, which is why we have to carry on campaigning and protesting, and why we have to carry on supporting, Debbie, the work that you and IAWPC are doing.
So absolutely, Peter. And I think the other thing is maybe picking up on something that you just said, and Anna as well. I can absolutely understand and appreciate, Anna, how overwhelming, this can feel, and you feel despondent and despairing. And I'm a psychodynamic psychotherapist, kind of by background, but I came out of practicing psychotherapy in order to focus full time and work with Les Ward on this campaign. But I think the thing in itself that's happening can make us feel so angry. And we see this violence, we feel angry, and I believe certainly for myself, and I'm sure many others, underneath the anger is the hurt. It's devastatingly painful to see this happening. But for myself, I will not be motivated by the anger. I am motivated by the love of the thing in itself.
Sure,
The
absolutely.
love for the dog
Yeah.
far outweighs my anger towards those people who are doing this and the authorities who are allowing it to happen. So going back to what you were talking about, hope and love. Let love be the thing that motivates, because without sounding kind of idealistic,
No,
I think
I
it
agree
can,
with you
I
entirely,
think it
Debbie.
can conquer the world.
I think compassion is far stronger than hate. I think
Yes,
and
I agree on that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we should catch up hopefully after your meeting and see how the landscape looks then.
absolutely.
Can I just give you an FYI, because it might be something that gives some indication of FIFA may be changing. So whilst we've got the 2026 tournament that started just a couple of days ago, and FIFA did a human rights and sustainability strategy for the 2026 Football World Cup, and they did that in December 2024. And for the first time ever in the history of FIFA, they've created an environmental objective, which is titled Animal Rights, where FIFA have made it mandatory that host cities, host countries have to protect and care for animals who might be caught up in the hosting of the tournament.
Wonderful.
That's
Wonderful.
key. I mean, that's a key step forward. Well, gosh, let's hold that thought. I mean, for me, that seems like a very positive ending to this episode. And Debbie, and Les, honestly, the work you do, and Peter, you're just, you're a saint, Saint Peter. So thank you again. And I really hope listeners will take action and sign the petition, because there is a petition that I still think is open. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, we have two. There's a petition that Soy Dog put out for us, and that is petitioning the Prime Minister of Morocco. And there's also an Action Network petition, which is petitioning FIFA directly.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Brilliant.
Well, those links are going to be in the show notes. So thank you both again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna, for hosting this. It's been a really interesting conversation. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Anna.
That's our show. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please rate and review the show wherever you tune into your podcasts. Thanks again, of course, to Debbie Wilson from the IAWPC and actor Peter Egan for joining us today. All the links to the petitions for you to sign are in the show notes. Thanks again, of course, to Mike for all the music and production as ever. And if you're interested in learning more about Naturaw or Antinol, go to my recommends page on my website, annaweb.co.uk, for lots more information and, of course, how you can redeem your discount codes. And if you haven't already, go on, subscribe. It's free, and that way you never miss another show. Bye for now.